In this video, I'm going to discuss Igcse's e-music past papers, June 2018, paper 11, section B. In section B, you will have 3 questions. So we're going to do B1 and B2 in this question paper because B3 is always your prescribed listening for that year. So let's listen to the music, but first let's just go through the questions. Questions 10 to 12. The first half of the extract is an example of call and response. Now, I'm sure that you know that term by now. What instrument plays the call? So the call is like the soloist. So the rest will respond, but name the instrument playing the call. Briefly describe the music of the call and response, and briefly describe how the music changes after the call and response section. And what tradition does this music belong to? Now for this section, before you even start listening to, you have to make a little list in the examination room of all the instruments that you should know. The Indonesian gamelan, African and Arab, the rabab, the kora, the xylophone and the oud, the Indian, the bansuri, the sitar, the sarangi and the tabla, Chinese, the chin, the dizi and the arhu, and the Japanese, the shakuhachi, the koto and the sho, and Latin America, bandoneon, panpipes, charango and guitars. And make sure that you know all these instruments, whether they plucked or whether they blown, that you know your instruments, because this is very important. Now, if I describe the music of the call and response, I describe both the call and the response. The call usually sounds improvised and more elaborate, with a wider variety of note lengths, and the response, you will have more instruments joining in, and in the response section, the answering phrase is the same, or does that change after a while? So do they always answer with the same phrase, or is just in the beginning and is that changed later on? And the solo instrument, is that one also involved in the response, or is that a place where they do not play together? Now, if I describe after the call and response section, think of the elements of music, okay? Texture, the melody, ascending or descending, the tempo. So describe the music according to your Dr. Smith method. And what tradition does this music belong to? Know your instrument and where they come from. Okay, so you know the instruments and exactly where that comes from.
And answer the questions.
I'm sure you heard where this music comes from. So now try to identify the instrument that played the call and listen again to the music of the call and especially the response. So the call you hear first, whether it's more elaborate, whether it's got a wider range, and listen to that section of the response and where that ends, what happens after the call and response.
Music B1, second playing.
So that instrument, there you hear the response. Lots of of the phrases is repetitive. And that's not the music after the chord. I hear more instruments added there. Okay. Now, while we listen to this again just now, that first instrument was the oud. And it sounds like a classical guitar or a lute. Okay. Now, a group of instruments join the oud to play the response. Now, that's very important that you mention that. The solo phrases seem to be improvised and are more elaborate. A wider variety in note lengths. It's more elaborate. The answering phrases are initially the same and then repeated. And you can hear that the oud also plays the response as well as the chord as being unusual. Now the music from Arab world is heterophonically. I've got higher instruments joining, okay? The tempo increases slightly. This is the music of the Arab world, the Middle East, North Africa. Okay, so if you're unsure about this, listen to this again. Music of B2. You will hear an extract from a piece for instruments. Name the melody instrument. What instrument enters later in the extract? Where does this music come from? And give 3 reasons for your answer.
Here is music B1 for the last time.
Okay, so let's first listen to that one again, while you go through your answers. I hear the oud. The oud carries on while the response plays. It's more elaborate, more notes. The response phrases stay the same. They play heterophonically, and that is a characteristic of the music of the Arab world. The tempo goes slightly faster there. Lots of repetitive melodies that I hear there. Okay, so now we will hear the next one, B2. You will hear an extract, the melody instrument, what instrument enters later, where does this music come from? That is what you have to identify first before you identify the melody instrument, because this 15A and B will guide you with the number 13 and 14 there. So it's going to start just now. And I think you will realize that they have lots of time in between for you to really write down very neat and tidily your work.
Music B2. You will hear an extract from a piece for instruments. Read through the questions now.
You only have one place in the world that you study that the music sounds like this. So that's the melody instrument. And what is that instrument entering now? You hear that this instrument is blown. What do I call that drum? You can write such a lot of things here on your reason for this answer. You only have one part of the world that you have to study where the music has got all those pitch bendings. And this is one of the reasons here that you hear in that melodic line a lot of pitch bending. And I have 3 characteristics and features that I always have in the music of this country. Okay? So those 3 reasons you
Music
can also
B2,
write here.
second playing.
The other reason for your answer, you always have that drone in the background. And the instrument entering there. Now that was of course the bansuri flute, and the instrument entering later was the tabla, and this is the music from India. Now Indian music always has a melody, the raga, always a rhythm, that I spelled incorrectly there, sorry, the tala and the drone. A small number of instruments
B2,
are playing.
third playing.
It uses ornaments, pitch bending, sliding means, improvisation involved. So listen to that drone, it's decorative. Always a dialogue between the different parts, with call and response and imitation between the players. The rhythm is called the tala, and they've got scales, the raga. Okay, so you've got that scale. The music has tones even smaller than a semitone, called microtones. Small group of performers, and the structure is the alap, the yor, and the yala. And I know that my drum, the tala, only joins in the yala. Singers also perform Indian music, okay? And Carnatic singing has a lot of decoration. The melody is all important. The instruments that you have to know is the sitar, the tabla, the sarangi, the bansuri, and the tambura. I always have a drone, I always have a melody, I always have a rhythm. Improvisation is very important, and I could hear in that example the improvisation. The texture is melody and accompaniment. I also heard a call and response here, and the texture also that drone. The tonality, I've got the raga, no fixed pitch, and the drone. And this is important, even if you write this.
For the last time.
3 elements in Indian music: the melody, the drone, and the rhythm. The tradition is oral, the teaching, they've got a guru, listening, imitating, and memorizing. And harmony, there's no real harmony in Indian classical music. Instead, a drone is played throughout the piece. So I'm sure that you understood now what you had to write here with your answer there. Okay, bansuri flute I hear the tabla entering just now, and the music is from India. You heard a lot of pitch bending. Improvisation is involved. I have my melody, I have the scale, the raga is called the raga, I have a rhythm, the tala, and I have the drone in the background. Okay, I'm sure you understand this, and good luck with your studies.